is 66. It's about just about a minute of time. If you go down at 60, a little less than a minute of time, and then if you get down to the sub levels, to the sublines, you're going down where you're dealing with just minutes of a minute or so of time is changing 10 days of your life. It's really fine tuning. Okay, so nonetheless, in the overview of it, let's just try and get the mechanics so we can use this table and get the information out of it. This has all the information. It's just the signs of the zodiac, the degrees, minutes, the first two letters, the signs repeated, then the hexagram and line number, then the pentens, then the hexagram and line number, then the subpentens, and the sub-hexagrams and line numbers, and then the exact aspects. And there's also a line for your birthday each year. When it comes along, your solar return, or just for where the sun was back on your birthday at the same time, the same moment you were born. It's not exactly the solar return; it's back at the same moment you were born. Okay, so from this, we organize a sheet like this. What I did is first just divided whenever the I Ching hexagram changed. See what at the top of the part here, we're looking at 1964. You see it's Scorpio, but besides Scorpio, you see 52 line 6. That's the hexagram. It goes down, go down, go down. Oops! It changes to 15. I want a huge change, a big theme change in my life. 65. But then it changed in the hexagram 15 line 1. It went down along further. Well, really, I went all the way down, and what changed hexagrams? Oh, it changed the hexagram 15 to 12 in 1968. Draw a solid line right across there. Those are the main hexagrams changing. Then it changes hexagram again in 1971. So these are the 2 3-year hexagrams, 3-degree hexagrams in the middle of the fixed signs. So I just marked the hexagram in the main hexagram, and I marked in when it changes, when that hexagram changes line, or when the degree changes. It's really as it goes from into 12 degrees, into 13 degrees, into 14 degrees, 15 degrees, 16 degrees, 17 degrees, 18 degrees. So these are the 6 years we're going to be watching the progression, my progressions for, and applying these things to. So there's going to be a hexagram that runs, that is the theme running from 65 to 68, July 65 to July 68. And then from July 68 until July 69 and 71, it's going to be a second hexagram. So this is the first thing we're going to read from these hexagrams, and we're going to see that there's 1-year divisions for line 1, 2, and 3. And then after line 3, it's counting 1 up to 3. It hits the 15-degree solstice point, and then it jumps over to the 3rd degree of the next hexagram and counts 3, 2, 1 going down. Hexagram 12, 3, 2, 1. So we're going to read these 2 hexagrams, and then we're going to look at these lines and relate them to what was going on, and get that sense before we jump to the sub-hexagrams and the sub-hexagrams. I want to be able to get this sense of following the phases, so you'll see what it is. They're metaphors, they're parables, they're teachings, they're guidance lines. So sometimes you don't say, oh, it's exactly this happened. Sometimes you say, oh my goodness, it's exactly what's happening. So you're listening, you're trying to learn from it as you go, because your progressions are really, we're measuring the progressions in terms of what's happening out in our life, but really the progression's about is how we're turning inward and growing inwardly and getting evolved to detach from the attachments in our life. So the attachments call out, and it pulls us into action. It gets the attention of our ego. At the same time, our spirit is trying to realize that's just the ego. Like, get centered, hold it, don't get distracted, don't get pulled away. Keep holding on track, holding on track. These themes are the guidance lines that keep you hold steady against the storms or challenges of the angels, of the aspects. Okay, now okay, if we follow this one more sheet down, I've done a little bit better. I just colored in so you can see it a bit better. The hexagram and the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 lines of the hexagrams are put in here, and you can see the penten, the Sag penten, and the Capricorn penten, the end of the Sag penten, and the beginning of the Capricorn penten, and the winter solstice points in the middle of the page. Okay, so now, okay, so this is going to be the fall. And I'm going to be using the I Ching book for the fall, the interpretation of the hexagrams. And maybe I should make this a little smaller if I can. Oh, I got to reach from it, so not too small. I'll keep it there. But then we're going to come back and relate this to to time plan now. Okay, I got to move this. For you, you can see the whole screen. I can't see the whole screen because I got my management of the. I can put this over here. Let me just see if I can move this whole thing. Yes. Ah, right. Wow, it takes me 2.5 years to figure this one out. Okay, so here we go. I got the 3 things. I've got my history. We went through my history. It's dated, and I made spaces for where it changed pentans and subpentans, and they're put on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, I'm putting in when it changes the hexagrams. So you'll see as we go along, there'll be when it changes hexagrams. Not for a while, then it changes the hexagrams. So we're just dealing with 2 hexagrams. And this my history starts from 64, but this is from when I got into university and left university. But we're really going to pick it up. Start here at this phase. So okay, a lot of today I'm going to just be reading from the hexagram and trying to apply it to my life and talk about how I'm relating to these things and how I get meanings from it, and you'll see it for yourself. So now I have to go up and find this hexagram of modesty, the mountain. Oh, it's modesty. Yes, modesty. Yes, modesty. It's Scorpio, Libra. Scorpio. There we go. Okay, so just as you have in meanings, interpretation for signs of the zodiac, there's whole interpretations and implications for the I Ching hexagrams, for the 6-degree divisions. And they're based on, we had each trigram, we locked their trigram as their family members, as their faces, as their, as they have a family membership, they have a nature symbol, they have an attribute, and relating these 2 symbols together builds up a word or a concept that allows for the theme modesty to come through. Here it's the mountain beneath the earth. So I'm not going to read through all of the technical things. I'm going to read through 3 or 4 of these main things. The first part being above and below. The earth above, 3 broken lines, and the mountain below. Receptive on the outside, keeping still on the inside. The mind surrenders, the body stays still. One does not talk of one's accomplishments. One will respond to the needs of others. One will let others go first and wait one's turn. This is the theme of this. Okay, so a lot depends on how much you're doing it or how much you're not doing that will determine how much guilt or sorrow or complications you'll have in your life. But a theme is set. And the image, the mountain that cannot be seen is modest indeed. The mountain does not show preference. The mountain does not show preference. People come and go. The mountain does not act. In meditations, thoughts come and go. The wise one does not act. To judge or show favor will generate danger and increase difficulties. Calm the mind. There's the puzzle. How well we live up to it. I really was living on the road and on the streets and traveling. In one way, I was really living up to it. I was not attached to things. In another way, things were changing all the time, but I didn't have much power or much to say within it. So there's the image. So when you start, there's always above or below, a basic theme, an image, and a judgment. And these are the things we're going to read. Then there's a family relationship, which I'm not going to, it's interesting, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm just going to read the judgment. Outer receptivity, inner tranquility, open to the influence of others. One does not contend. Open to the influence of others, one does not contend. One sits peacefully in the midst of vulnerabilities. Keeping still, the mind is free from attachments. Content with simplicity when one does not consider what is unworthy. Well, during this whole phase, I was traveling, I was being in one place or another. I really wasn't working. I didn't have much money. I was just getting by. I wasn't contending with anybody, but I wasn't upset with not having things. I was getting by simply. So in a certain way, that was very vivid and active. If we go through a little bit of my history through this, just to go through this, I think we'll do it more. Well, okay, this is when I left home. Went out to the West Coast. And after my first year of university, I had experience there, came back. I came back in the fall, went to university. I didn't last very long. I didn't have my head wasn't into the university. And it was my family splitting up, and I didn't fit in. And I stopped working. I stopped doing things. So I was keeping still and being myself, but I wasn't active, being more passive and pulling into myself. And this was then the school year ended. I worked out. I left to travel, went out west, went down California, went down and lived in the mountains of Mexico. And then I came back up to Canada. But I only came back up the West Coast to Calgary. And then I went back down into California again. And this whole phase. Went back into California, then and Mexico, and it really went up until the phase where I came back to Canada. I was living there, and eventually, when it changed, it changed just after I got to India. So really, all my time before I went to India was in this for several years, and then the first little part of India, and then when it went longer term, it went into the next hexagram. So we're just gonna kind of work it a little bit, but this is so. But really, many people look at my life having nothing at the time, just traveling around without money, without being really towards just getting by moment to moment, give us this day our daily bread like that. Would have judged it as a very unworthy way of living. I should have a job, I should have a career, I should have these things. So there's a family relationship. I'm not going to read it. There's a zodiac consideration, which is how it relates to the pentans, how the Scorpio and the Sag pentans come into this. So one understands vulnerability but makes no judgments. One holds to silence and remains trustworthy. One does not let the weakness of others disturb one's peace. One remains open-minded and does not contend. Well, I see it and I look at it. I was traveling. I didn't have anything. I really wasn't. I was vulnerable. Other people were crazy or vulnerable, whatever, but I didn't stay attached. I just moved away from them. I didn't fight with them or argue with them. And you could say it was open-minded, really. I was just surviving and moving away from anything. And when there was disturbances, I would move away. Okay, now, while we're here, I think we'll go through the lines at this time to the first level lines while we're in this hexagram before we go to the next theme. Usually you can see the 3-year theme, 3-year theme, or 6-year and 6-year theme, get that first. But if we do the 3-year theme and the lines, it'll hold together better. And then we'll do the next theme. So this is the whole phase leading up to and leaving North America and going to, so here we are, after the main, so the beginning of the hexagram, there's always a couple of pages giving these interpretations. Then there's the I Ching lines. Now, we're going from, if we look back to the hexagram, we're seeing on the left here, we're seeing hexagram 15, line 1. Then it goes to line 2 and line 3. So we're looking at those each one is a theme for a year of my life.